So, yeah.
Who here is into fitness? So you go to the gym at least once a week? Okay. Keep them up. And keep your hands up if you know already that you're doing it wrong. So the question today that I'm going to be asking is, could you be doing it wrong? Okay, so a few of you are being honest with yourselves. Those of you who didn't put your hands up because you don't train at all, then you're already doing it wrong. I'm sorry to be obnoxious to say that. If you put your hand down, you're probably going to hate me in about 5 minutes' time, or in about 20 minutes' time I'm going to try and turn it around a little bit.
Is it turned on?
No, it's not turned on. Good start. So, one of the reasons why I know most of us as a population are doing it wrong, can you guys see that, by the way, is because 90 to 95% of people do not do the recommended amounts of exercise, which is a really ridiculously high statistic, right? So, the recommended amounts of exercise aren't actually that high. They're about 30 minutes a day, which includes even walking, and not many people even do that. You could break it down, you could do an hour a day, 3 times a week, something like that. That doesn't include 7 hours once a fortnight, okay, where you have a busy day in the garden. We want to try and spread it out a little bit and get a bit more exercise than that. And even when people are going to fitness and they have motivation to finally get it open and go into the gym, 48% of people are leaving their gym every year. Now, if we forget that we're at FitFest today and forget that we're into fitness, all of us here, most of us here, if you went to a restaurant and you didn't like it, you wouldn't go back, would you? Okay, if you made a purchase of a pair of shoes or some clothing, you took it back, you probably wouldn't buy that brand again. So the reason why I think people aren't staying at their gyms is because they're not getting the results. Sure, there are people who are circumstantially changing location, their financial situation changes, their jobs change, but the majority of people, I think, are leaving their gyms because they aren't getting results. And I'm not just cherry picking a couple of statistics here to fit my agenda. We can see that people aren't getting results. And I know this only goes up to 2005 here, but it's climbing all the time. And if I could go back further than 1996, it would have been even lower. And I know it only goes up to 2005, but if it you can see here, whenever it drops, the trend is upwards. And the scariest line on there is obviously the green one. It's got children here. I'm not here, to pick on just obesity today. We're going to talk about health as a whole. So, more than anything, we don't want our children to grow up and be unwell, do we? We want them to live probably longer than we do. This kind of evolution, we want them to be fitter and healthier and more well than we are as they grow up. But it's not just our body shape. I've only picked 3 things here: cardiovascular disease, breast cancer, diabetes. I could have picked degenerative joint conditions, but it wouldn't fit on the slide. Mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, prescription medications. Everything's climbing. The breast cancer line here, I did get a chart that went back to 1960, so it's a steeper line. But the further we go back, the more well we were, and the longer we go on, the more problems we've got. So if we all agree that there is a problem, okay? And the problem is because people don't know what fitness is. They think they know what fitness is, and I'm going to get right round to this at the very end today and actually tell you, what the problem is. But let's just find out here. Why do most of you train? So those of you who put your hand up and said you go to the gym, can I just have some reasons why you train? Makes you feel better. Great. Do you enjoy it? Anyone else? No? Why do you train? Keep strong, stay fit. So strong do you play sport or anything like that? Play sport, great. So it might be better for your sport. Anyone here just to lose weight? So okay, put their hand up. Yeah, cool. That's probably the most common one, so I was surprised when no one said it. Put their hand up. So there's different things for all of us. So you can see here, fitness isn't actually about the way you look. Okay, so the most common goal is to lose weight, to lose body fat, if you want to be politically correct about it. But fitness is actually the quality of being suitable to fulfill a particular role or task. Now, we all have different roles and tasks. So some people might be doing it for your sport, and you might be different sports. So the program for a golfer might be different to the program for a martial artist, or a rugby player, to a runner. It's all different. You might not play any sport, but you still have an active life. You might have young children running around, so you've got to be bending down to pick things up every day. You've got to have the endurance to be able to do that. You could be a gardener, so similar things. You might be on your knees and pulling things out of the ground. And you've got to make sure that you're fit enough to do those things. So there are differences for everybody, rather than just coming in the gym and just going hard or going home. You could be going hard in the wrong direction. It doesn't matter how fast you drive north, if you're trying to go south, you're never going to get there. So there's one thing though, although there's differences in all of us and the reasons we're training, there's one thing that's universal to all of us, which no one said, to live longer and to live healthier. So if your fitness program is making you fitter and it gives you six-pack abs and you look better in a thong, Paul, then
You say it.
if it's not making you healthier and actually promoting and preserving your life, it's not working. That's where fitness is going wrong. And there's one thing that we can do, lots of things we can do, to balance out what's called our autonomic nervous system. Now, if you're already turning off, well, big words, this is the most complex end of my slide to get today. 4 big words on there. You know, autonomic nervous system, we have 2 branches, the sympathetic branch and the parasympathetic branch. The sympathetic branch is all responsible for stress. So whenever you have any kind of stress in your life, it could be, you know, what we most think about stress, mental emotional stress, the mental stress that Pico was talking about this morning, the physical stress of, you know, injuring yourself or falling, chemical stress in our atmosphere, all these stresses. The body does the same thing, it doesn't care where that stress comes from. It releases adrenaline and cortisol, all of your stress hormones, to ramp you up and get you ready for that, what's called the fight or flight response. Now the other side of this, the parasympathetic side, is where we're resting and repairing and digesting and recovering and reproductive system, immune system, and these things go in opposition to each other. You can't have both at the same time. And when this is in balance, it's called homeostasis, the last one of the words, I promise. And homeostasis is when all of these things here, I'm not going to go through each one by one, where all of these things are working efficiently. So we've got an efficient heart rate and respiratory rate, we're perspiring, and all these things are obviously relevant to you being a FitFest and being into fitness. So it's important to have these things regulated. It doesn't matter if your nervous system's screwed up and you've got six-pack abs, who really cares? If you're dying, you go in the wrong direction. You know, something like digestion is an important one because you could have the most perfectly planned out meal in front of you, but if you're not digesting properly, it doesn't matter what you're eating. So, you know, the old you are what you eat, it's not really true, it's you are what you digest. And if your nervous system isn't in balance, isn't in homeostasis, you've got a problem. You know, sexual arousal is a really important one because how many young people now are infertile, isn't it? It's, that's a population going into extinction. So if you've got children, if you want them to grow, if you want to have grandchildren, that kind of stuff, this is majorly important. Viagra needs to be chucked out the window. So I frequently see people coming to me low libido, and it's the biggest problem we see. But there's something we can do about this. So we've got homeostasis, where we're in balance, but there's something from the last big word, allostasis, which is where we actually go off balance. And most people are starting off balance. They've got some kind of ache or pain or discomfort in their body. So they're starting off centre somehow. Most people are too sympathetic, they're too stressed out. Again, Pete Cohen mentioned this morning, everyone's rushing around, busy, crazy lifestyles. So they're too stressed out. And allostasis is okay because we can come off centre but actually bounce back a little bit. It's like, children have got good balance most of the time because, if they fall down, they scrape their knee, they just get back up again. If we fall down and we bash our hip, it's time to get hip replacement. So another sort of metaphor for this, if you had an elastic band and you stretch it too much, it loses its tension and it doesn't spring back quite as much. So we want to create this kind of spring back mechanism in our bodies. But you could also pull the elastic band too much and eventually it breaks. And that's a disease or illness which you're going to have trouble getting out of. And there are things you can do for this. So here we go. I'm going to whiz through these because this is definitely going to run over 25 minutes. We have modifiable lifestyle factors that all of you can change, and it's in your conscious choice to change it. I'm not going to go really deep down the rabbit hole and talk about your issues from childhood and why you don't exercise, but there's things, if you can be consciously aware of it and you can see the importance of what I'm saying today, you can change these things. And most people come into this, I'm also not going to give you specifics. I wanted to avoid that. There's other people here today doing better with specifics. I wanted to just give you this outline. Most people come in and 95% of people aren't exercising. So they're on this side of the scale. They're doing less than they should be. But for you guys who are exercising, you've got to be really careful. I know some of you in here already doing this, and I've spoken to you about it. Overtraining. People are surprised when they hear that as a fitness professional I only do 3 times a week in the gym. They think, wow, you be 7 days a week, you know, more is better. If I put you on the treadmill and said stay there 24 hours a day, you couldn't do it. You know, you might get 1 day out. Even when people have got that balance right, of doing enough, they're doing the wrong things in the gym. You've all said now you've got a different program or different reasons for training. So a golfer will be doing lots of twisting stuff. You know, a runner doesn't need to do a whole lot of twisting stuff. You know, they need to resist the temptation to twist. So your programs in the gym will be very, very different. What's right for one person could in fact be wrong for another person. So if someone needs a lot of endurance, like a marathon runner, a golfer doesn't need endurance, they need power. You actually screw up a golfer's swing if you slow them down too much. So everyone needs a specific program, and the wrong training could create more sympathetic stress. More fight or flight, your stress hormones go up, the ability to recover goes down, your libido goes down. You see where I'm going with this? So nutrition, usually people come into fitness and they're thinking about exercise and then nutrition. They're the 2 things that they go hand in hand. So when we're talking about food, again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of this because I saw a study the other day that actually looked at the success rates of different diet plans. And the funny thing was the difference in success rates on the different diet plans was negligible. It was the one that you stuck to was the one that you were most likely to get a result with. So all I'm going to tell you to do is listen to your body. And, you know, eating too much is a real thing, but equally when people get into fitness, eating too little is a real thing as well. Frequently clients will come in and they'll do their food diet, it'll be 1,000 calories a day. You know, that's a meal for me. And the World Health Organization tell you that 2,100 calories or less is actually the beginning of starvation. So what do you think happens when you're starving? Do our stress hormones go up or down? There's only one answer. No? We're away? Those big words took it out of you. We've also got poor quality food, so non-organic food, commercial food that's sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. Do you think your body likes to eat those? Stress hormones go up, libido goes down. Inflammatory foods, junk food, poorly timed meals. You could be eating the right food, but if you only do it once a day, stress hormones go up if you're not eating for the rest of the day. Let's move on. Water, okay? You start exercising, you get thirsty, so you start drinking more, which is good. You don't want to be dehydrated. You get dehydrated, your bowels stop moving as efficiently, so you can't digest your food as well. Did you know you can drink too much water? So 4 or 5 litres a day, it's usually too much for most people. One of the symptoms of overhydration is actually thirst. So be careful with that. And make sure you drink 2, 2.5, to go above that. But it's going to change. Listen to your body, that's why we've got this scale. You've got to keep it balanced. In the summer, you're hot, you're sweaty, you might need to drink more water. In the winter, you might want to substitute that for soups and hot milk, stuff like that. Everyone's different. Sleep. If I asked you to stay asleep, stay awake for 24 hours, could you do it? Very rare. Could someone do that? So, when we're in the gym, stop telling me to do it. I challenge you to do it. So, when you go in the gym, your muscles actually break down and they get weaker. You can never lift as much at the end of a workout session as you could at the beginning of the session. So we've got to make sure we allow enough time to rest and repair and that your muscles grow and become stronger. Because otherwise you're robbing from Peter's playbook. You've got to make sure we're resting enough. So first things first, make sure you allow for enough time to sleep. So 7 to 8 hours is usually recommended. I often hear people tell me, what about so-and-so, Maggie Thatcher or something like that, she got on 2 to 4 hours a night, but with all due respect, she didn't die of natural causes either. So you've got to put things into perspective, and if you want to live longer and live well for the rest of your life, that's the goal. We want to sleep and rest and have balance in our lives. So people, you probably hear this later, the guy talking about getting fit at 50. I don't want to steal his thunder, but we could easily live to 100 years now. It's, you know, even with emergency medical care, keeping us alive that little bit longer, we can do it. But do you want to just live, or do you want to actually thrive in your lives? People are on medication from 20, 30, 40 years old now. And think about this, if you were running a marathon and you got to 13 miles, you want to feel really, really good. But you've got to do it all again. So anyone here who's like 50 or approaching it, you're going to hopefully feel really, really well. So sleep well. Here, waking during the night, I say this because 90% of my clients, when they come to see me, they are having disturbed sleep, which is not normal. And it points to the fact that this, what I'm presenting to you today, it's a holistic model in so much as each thing affects each other thing. So if you go and exercise right after you've eaten some food, you're going to impair your ability to digest that food. If you exercise too late at night, it might impair your ability to get to sleep. You eat the wrong foods before you go to bed, it might affect your ability to sleep. So to stay asleep all through the night. So think about all these things as a model working together. This is to represent breathing. You're thinking, God, I'm 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and you're teaching me to breathe again. I've been doing that fine, thank you. But let's do a little test. Put one hand onto your chest, one hand onto your tongue. You might wake up. Take a big deep breath in, and breathe out. One more time, and think about which hand moves first. Okay? And relax there. Most people, I was looking around at you, the chest moves first. Okay. Some of you might be a bit of both, but for the most part, the chest moves first. Am I wrong? Right. So, when the chest is breathing, it's a sign that we're anxious and we're stressed out, almost like this primal desire to make ourselves bigger, like a cobra or a cat. You know, they get bigger to make themselves ready for stress, that fight or flight mechanism. And we breathe about 25 to 30,000 times a day, depending on how fast you breathe. Now, if you're doing that 30,000 times a day, you're sending a signal to your nervous system to send out more stress hormones, impairing your ability to rest, to sleep and repair and have a high libido. Oh. Hyperventilation is when we're breathing too fast. So most people think of hyperventilation when you're really stressed out, you're anxious or panicking, you have a panic attack. Hyperventilation is actually anything more than 10 to 12 breaths a minute. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on your breathing. No one's doing that, guys. So slow it down, otherwise you are, begin to this, stressed. Thinking, again, Pete's touched on a lot of this morning. He's touched on one side of it where it's, positive thinking, shut the duck up, that duck being this overly negative, whiny voice in the background in your life. But I want to give another side to this today, of the power of negative thinking, actually. Because sometimes overly positive thinking can actually be unrealistic to a lot of people. And there's a study done with people's self-esteem, and there's an easy website you can find, the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. It's a 0 to 30 scale. Now, people who score below 18 on that scale typically have low self-esteem. That doesn't have to be a bad thing, it just gives you a bit more into their character. They might be an introvert. And believe it or not, there's a lot of extroverts in the fitness industry, Pete being one of them. So it does very well with this positive mindset. But there's a lot of people, those low self-esteemers, who if you get them to say something super positive, they're actually going to turn them the other way. And they're actually not going to believe it. So you can get to say, I love myself all day long, but you're actually going to drive them deeper and deeper in there. Now, I'm not talking about being negative and say, I hate myself. I'm talking about being honest with yourself. And say, I'm, whatever it might be, I'm feeling angry because I've put weight on and I've lost control of my ability to eat food. It's a little bit more constructive than just, I love myself, whatever. So, also here, there's running out of time. No dreams or life goals. So we touched on this. Not many of you put your hands up when I said, why do you train? Not enough of you. You should know exactly why you're training and the reasons you're waking up every morning. Because otherwise, when you get in the car here today and you leave to go home, how will you know when you got there? Because you pre-decided where you were going before you got there. What if you got in the car and you had no destination? You'd never know when you were getting there. So before you get into the gym, you've actually got to decide, I'm training to be a better golfer. I'm training because my back hurts. When my back doesn't hurt anymore, I will know I've got there. Okay? And then remember, it's not meant to be, it's like this spiral staircase and you just keep coming up and down and you're never going to get there. That's the secret of it all. And I don't think I've said anything revolutionary there today. It all makes sense. It's quite self-explanatory. Thank you. So, I get people saying to me all the time, it makes sense, it's really basic. They almost want something wrong with them, and I just tell them to eat right and go to bed on time. And they don't believe me that it's that simple. They want some diagnosis. People say, yeah, I exercise regularly, but it just doesn't work for me. Or, yeah, I ate organic food for 6 months and nothing changed in my life. I went to bed on time. I did yoga class, for a month and nothing happened. But it's when you knock all of these layers off, and you do a few of these things, and they all work, and they weave in and out of your life. That's where the magic happens, and you hit this threshold about halfway down, and you start to see results. You start to see results, and hopefully you won't be one of those 48% of people leaving the gym every year to try another gym just in case it's different. Okay? Like the diet study, it doesn't all really matter which diet you do, it's sticking to one. Now, here is what fitness isn't. Google, the search engine that knows everything, doesn't know what fitness is. When you type in fitness into Google, this is what comes up. And if you ask the 90 to 95% of people if they think they should be fitter, they would probably say, yes, you're right, I admit it, I should be fitter. Whether they go into doing more or not is a different story, but I think we all admit we could be fitter. I know I could. But if you say, okay, great, you want to be fitter, here you go. Enjoy. Yeah? It's easier being unfit than it is to go and do this for most people. So, what if you said to a person who doesn't exercise, and you know people, for every one of you here that exercises, there's another 9 out there who don't. If you said to someone who exercises, okay, you want to be fitter. Okay, if you were fitter, did you know that you'd have more energy to spend with your children? And you have more energy, you won't wake up and feel like rubbish every morning. That bloating that you had, that pain, that porch, that might go, and you have less flatulence. Libido is going to go right. All these things, and this person's going to be like, yeah, that's way more exciting than this. Yeah, sign me up, what do I do? So you say, okay, well, you've got to eat real food that was here 10,000 years ago. It's in every supermarket, we're really lucky in this country. Exercise every day, walk, maybe some stretching exercises or a few times a week. Go to bed on time. Everyone loves to sleep, right, go to bed. And once a day, twice a day, maybe sit down, look at the flowers in your garden and practice your breathing. Can you do that? Yeah? All pretty simple things, right? It's a lot more realistic than this and this. So, blasting fat in 12 minutes is not a reality. It doesn't happen, it never will. 5 days, more realistic than 12 minutes, but it's still not going to happen. These people have great genetics and a great Photoshop editor as well. Don't believe it. We've been sold so many lies. And there's also nothing here about health. So yes, you might follow their plan, and if you followed one of their plan, maybe not for 12 minutes, but for a year, you might have better six-pack abs, you might look good in a thong. But does it make your life improve as much as your body fat percentage goes down? Studies show that you take a woman's body fat percentage below about 16 to 18%, and she starts to lose her menstrual cycle. Again, population going into extinction as well. The only reason a lot of bodybuilders can still get it up is because of the hormones. So it's a major issue. Now, I'm from GymBuzz. I don't know if any of you have heard of us already. And GymBuzz is a review website for gyms. A little bit like TripAdvisor, where you can go on and you can write a review for the gym you've been to. Now, we've got 2 missions that run side by side. One of those missions is to take that 90% of people and decrease it, get more of you to exercise, the people that don't. And the other side of that is to actually find the people that do exercise like you and actually make your experience better. We don't want you lapsing into that 48% of people who have left your gym. Keep it going and make it a lifelong thing. So that's why I'm here today. Hopefully you've taken some constructive stuff from what I've said today. I think here at FitFest is for that end. But in terms of writing a review, we're going to walk around today with an iPad, we're going to collar most of you. If you've been to one or more gyms, we want you to write a review today. And the reason for doing that is to contribute to that 90 to 95% of people who don't train and tell them, this can work. This stuff is not it's not a quick fix, but get into it and it's really worth doing. We get reviews all the time where someone will say, I was fed up, unhealthy, overweight, and I found this gym and my life changed. Literally, it saved my life. Clients say that to me, and it's just, that makes you want to do it. It makes you want to get out there and do it every day. So if someone's on Google and they're typing in gyms in Essex and they stumble across a listing of a gym in Essex and it says that, and they're one of the 95% of people who've never been to a gym and they feel fed up, overweight, unhealthy and unwell, and they think, yeah, that's me, this person's done it, so maybe I can, then you could have changed that person's life. You could have literally saved that person's life. They might then inspire their children. Their children might inspire their children and become friends with your children, and you'll be healthy and well and happy. You could, on the flip side, have a constructive review. You might go to your gym and say, you know, there's no squat rack. You know, they had a refurb and there's no squat rack in the gym, so, you know, tell them about it, and then they might add it back in if enough people do it. But at least then, if someone then goes on looking for gyms in Essex and they see that there's no squat rack in the gym, but they really want a squat rack, they know not to join that gym. So it's all about helping each other. And in a sense, helping others is going to help you. I don't know if you've had that experience of going to someone's house for dinner and just really sorry I can't eat that pasta or that bread, and they're like, what? Just one meal, go on, one meal, and they almost shame you into doing it. But imagine if like everyone's on the same page and we're all this happy, harmonious world of fitness and health and all in it together. It would be really nice. And I'm going to finish. This sums up everything I've said today. Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And remember, if your goals and your health and life don't improve at the same rate,